Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mobile Bev Pros podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing mobile bar and event professionals with the information they need to succeed. I'm your host, business coach, and founder of the Mobile Bar Academy, Sarah Murphy. In each episode, the Mobile Bev Pros team will bring you industry experts, information, anecdotes, and opinions with the goal of assisting you in building a profitable, sustainable, and successful business that supports you in creating wealth. I'm excited to share with you today's episode, so let's get started.
Welcome back, guys, to the Crowds and Chaos podcast, as well as to the MVP podcast. We will be releasing this in both places for a very important PSA, a notice to the MVP audience. We have so much crossover, but what we found is that crossover, for the most part, are people who are more advanced in their journeys with MVP, or they are new to mobile bars, but they're wildly attracted to the premium luxury spaces, which is where we've been living most recently. And like when I say most recently, I kind of mean like since last year-ish, kind of sometime. Like we just dripped it over time through these different courses. And we didn't know. We didn't know that this was where we were going. This is like when you read your astrological chart and you're like, oh yeah, that is who I am. It's kind of like that. That's what's been happening to us. And today we are going to talk to you guys about our pivot. You might be wondering if you're on our email list or if you've heard us chatting about it, like, where is this pivot to premium program I was promised? There was so much alliteration there. That was, and it actually turned into an entire novel. Like literally, Sarah wrote the book. I was trying not to say the F word there. She wrote the book on it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that process and what it took to get her there. We are also going to be talking though about like what you can expect from us in the future because things are pivoting here. We are pivoting to premium consciously now, no longer unconsciously. You guys are pivoting to premium, and we want to take you along on this journey with us. And we want you to know what that entails and what you're going to have access to. What are we going to be? You guys know we love a good lesson plan. We love a good group coaching program. We love a good 1-to-2 to spice things up and get intimate. And like, that's not really going to live at MVP anymore. We are going to keep those containers. The academy's not going anywhere. If you're listening to this and you're an Academy member and you're like, oh no, lifetime, it's going to stay forever and ever. We are shifting. We are shifting. And so while we will continue to maintain what has already been built for MVP and likely add new things into it every now and then as we feel called and inspired, as of right now, we are going to pivot our focus to Crowns and Chaos, and for a very juicy and delicious reason.
It's so scary. It's so scary. A very tower moment, which actually the people who follow MVP and have for a while probably are not surprised by this at all because it's not uncommon for me to burn things down and build it back up. And in this case, I'm not burning MVP down. I'm just building something up. And we have a lot of multi-passionate entrepreneurs that come into the mobile bar space. And so this is going to be very familiar to every single one of them that are like, yeah, I also have multiple irons in the fire and I thrive there. And I think we've had a number of episodes in the past where we talk about sacred and sacrifice, and anything that you're focusing on in any given moment is at the sacrifice of everything else. And it's just become increasingly clear over the past 18 months that we really want to live in a broader space than just the mobile bar industry. And like everything in our field kind of reinforces that. You know, my one-on-one clients are not mobile bar owners for the large part. Brew, you know, we did have some non-mobile bar people attend that event. And like we are just as capable of supporting them as we are people in the mobile bar space. And so it's just not fair to the rest of the world to not share us with them. And so we are broadening ourselves through the channel of Crowns and Chaos. And she kind of chuckled when you're like, we love a good structure. I literally tell Claude when I'm writing copy to target it toward a Virgo moon. Like I know that about our audience is that they love on the inside, some sort of structure, some container, some knowledge of where they are and where they're going. Like that's just part of the DNA of the people who love working with us, is that on the inside, they really do crave that structure. Even if on the outside, they're like, I'm a visionary and I love to create and I'm hard to peg down and I'm so challenged by productivity methods. Like on the outside, they're rebelling, but on the inside, they're like, just give me a spreadsheet. So we know that about our people. And while you were out on vacation, as you know, I kind of took over on the email side and I drafted a number of pen pal letters, which historically my pen pal letters are really well read and there's no sales component to them. It's really just an opportunity to connect with people and kind of share some knowledge or perspective, or sometimes I get really personal about them just to kind of, build intimacy, which I'm not going to go there, but like that's the purpose of the emails. And so I was kind of sharing as it was unfolding the 5-phase desire blueprint, as I've come to name it, of what we do and how we kind of guide people through creating businesses that are irresistible, that convert, that people adore. And we initially taught this framework in its very infant stage last year in Nashville when we had people over to the Woo the Premium Buyer or the Sexy Selling Workshop. We had a number of very fun names for that workshop. And it became clear in that workshop that it was a lot for people to take in just one day. And so that needed to be revamped and like figure out how to position it so that it's not super overwhelming. And through that process became the 5-phase framework that I introduced in this pen pal letter, which is the fascination, frustration, flirtation, follow through, and adoration. And I got to about the third one in emails and I'm like, next week. And I was just like, that weekend, literally, I started writing the book. It was like, it just came through. It was like a fire hose and I couldn't stop writing for between Thursday, which I don't have any meetings scheduled on Friday. So it was like midday Thursday through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those 4 days, I spent about 37 hours writing, which was like at the detriment potentially of my family because my husband was also traveling. He was like, I was the sole caretaker. And I was like, just writing while making dinner, like literally typing and waiting for the oven to ding. And by the end of it, I had the book, which was more than I'd ever done before. And you've watched me try and write books before where it was like, I got chapter 1 and I couldn't get past chapter 1, or I got chapter 1 and chapter 2. And then it was like, oh my God, this is so hard. I don't even see where the rest of this book is going. And I tried asking like AI to be like, give me a framework that I can work within. And then like writing to that framework. And it always lost an erotic charge pretty early on in the project. Like I'm talking a couple hours in. For whatever reason, this had to come out, and it had to come out in the format that it wanted to come out. And it did. And so 37 hours later, I had a book. Then I spent the next 10 days just going back through chapter by chapter and kind of doing the first round of edits, which to be fair, I kind of towards the end, I was like, this sucks. I hate this so bad. Like I'm so done with it. And so at that point is where I just kind of sent it off to an editor. And then yesterday I started going back through from the very beginning and starting to do edits again. And I'm like, actually, this is fucking good. Like this is gold. And so if I have advice for anybody, one, just stream of consciousness, get it down first. Like don't edit as you go, just get it out, let it come through. My second time through, I was like, this section actually belongs here. And like, this section doesn't have enough words. Like you can do that later, but just like get all, even if it's just bullet points, like these are the things I want to cover in this chapter. And then like, these are the things I want to cover in the next chapter. Like do that first and then go through and edit. But that editing process really deserves a ton of space. Like maybe you edit 1 chapter a day. That's it. Or maybe even like my chapters are pretty long. So like maybe 1 and then you take a break. Because like otherwise you'll start to hate yourself and like everything will start to feel wrong. And then it starts to feel really overwhelming. Like this is trash. You've heard me say this. Like maybe this is trash. It's just like I'm so close to it and I see all the potential. I get in my head a lot. But when I'm given a little space, I'm like, man, this is actually a really good concept. And I like the way that I laid this out here. Or now that this has had space, I see this has opportunity to have a little bit more detail, or, maybe this is too much detail and it's overwhelming. So the space, I think, is an important part. But for whatever reason, this book needed to come out. It needed to come out the way that it did, and it needed to come out quickly. Talk about like, if like the human birth, like this was on the scale of things, this felt like a 2-hour birth. Like I didn't even get to the hospital in time before it like had to come out. And I've heard people talk about writing books and how it took them years. And like, I just thought that's how it had to happen. And that is not how this had to happen. But I think what made this possible to happen so quickly is that, and I've asked you to kind of look over it, and it's nothing new. It's all the stuff we've been talking about on these podcasts and in the academy and in our workshops. It's every conversation I have the past couple of days. I'm like, that's chapter 4. That's chapter 7. Like this is the work that we do. It's the work we've always done. It's the work we want to continue to do. We just want to do more of it. And we want to do this kind of work potentially like a bit more hands-on, a bit more, high level. So yes, we'll have academy-like stuff, resources people can teach themselves. But I think one of the things that you and I have really learned over the years is that people don't want to just self-learn. They either want some sort of co-working scenario where like we help them along, we provide them with the framework, and then we kind of hold them accountable to the implementation and the execution. We customize it to them and their needs a little bit more, not just this is the course, just listen to the lesson and go implement. But also like having you and I like fingers in the pot, right? Like business reviews and like, here's actually how you should frame this and how you should word this. And so we're just hoping to do more of that now that we have kind of our framework formalized for use.
I want to focus for a second on the frustration piece, and I want to tell the listeners a secret. And maybe it's not, maybe I've already told you guys, but it was a secret then too. So like, shh, right? When we moved the academy, the Mobile Bar Academy, to the new platform, that process really weighed on you for months and months before it ever actually came out, because you were like, I live in a really premium space now. Like I'm living with the buyer psychology of like premium buyers. And the academy, a lot of it is geared toward professionalism. Like if you're going to do this, you should do it right. Like, yes, you can buy a PDF somewhere that tells you that you need this type of cooler or whatever it is. But the Mobile Bar Academy, Mobile Bev Pros, was always geared toward a level of professionalism that you weren't going to find with somebody who's just slinging drinks behind a 6-foot foldable table. And so that was always your target audience. And you were like, your Mars is in Scorpio. And so like literally your signature for action is burning shit to the ground and like Phoenix. The way Sarah takes action is that she is the fucking Phoenix embodied, like totality, okay? And you were like, do I just like re-record the entire academy under the premium lens? And ultimately, we decided that, first of all, there were hundreds of hours of content that you were going to have to replace under this premium lens. And that's where like we were like, okay, pivot to premium then becomes its own program, right? Because like re-recording all the content in the academy is golden, especially for people who are just getting started, who value professionalism and education. And so like taking it to that next premium level potentially would have been a disservice to how great it already is, right? And every time we get into the academy, we're like, oh, this is just so yummy. And we literally get no bad feedback. Like people get in there and they're like, I love this. And so record it for what, you know? And that's when you were like, okay, pivot to premium is going to be its own program. And then like the closer we got to it, the more we realized that like in a lot of ways, when you get to the premium level, there's a level of genius and a level of creativity that is required, because anybody can solve a problem at the budget in the budget space, and it doesn't have to be all that fantastic. Literally Dollar General's it's just black and yellow, like black and yellow, black and yellow. Like it's just basic, you know what I mean? And so like you don't have to be creative to solve a budget problem. Premium buyers are looking for a next level experience. They don't just want hot dog buns. They want the brioche with the sesame seeds, right? Like they want something like more delicious, more fun. And so like at that level, we were like, okay, how do we make this a program where we have more intensive auditing? hands-on, to your point, fingers in the pot in people's businesses. Because oftentimes, and we find this even in our top tier containers, you work with us 1 to 2, oftentimes it's like, here, review this for me. And we're like, I'll just do it. I'll just do it for you. Just here, use this one. You know what I mean? And our client, they're like, oh my God, I love it so much. Right. And so we recognize that the process of learning to be in the premium market takes time and trial and error. Whereas when we can get our hands in the pot, we can just take you to premium. We can just, it's like a teleportation device. Like you just get in and you were here and boom, now you're here. And so like, pivot to premium just couldn't come through. And like it took you months. I've never seen it take you, obviously, the way that you created this book is how you create everything. You just hyperfixate, right? For like 40 hours in a week. And then you're like, boom, I have an entire program, right? And like pivot to premium just took months and months. And you were like, I don't even know. I don't even know. You even in one of your emails that you sent while I was on vacation, you were like, I can't even tell you what the status of that program is because, like, I still don't know. Well, voila, it's a book. And now it's going to turn into its own ecosystem with Crowns and Chaos. And that's why I think it wasn't ever meant to be a program, really, for like to be in addition to the Academy and the Accelerator. It's for an entire different ecosystem. And now we welcome mobile bar owners over there, but we're also welcoming photographers, wedding planners, charcuterie carts. I'm loving the alliteration in this. Like, we're also welcoming, you support a PR specialist, right? Like, I'm supporting a publisher, like whatever, ice cream trucks, like whatever you do, we want to teach you to do it at the premium level. And there's a reason for that. In your book, and this is one thing I want to highlight, you mention every business should start at the premium level unless they're like this huge corporation. If you are a small business owner, you should not start at budget. You should start at premium. Can you expand on that? Will you tell us a little bit more about why that's your stance?
Yeah, that's my hot take. It's right there in the intro. It's basically like, listen, the reason this book came to be is because it's my hot take, my opinion, that literally no small business should start off serving any market except for the premium market. And the low level reasons for that is, one, you don't have operational efficiencies that allow you to play in that space. You don't have economies of scale that enable you to buy a ton or have a lot of buying power so you can reduce the price on the things that you need to do your business. And so a lot of people get into the industry and they look at some of these big players and they try and compete on price, or they try and compete on a number of things, and they just can't. And that's why so many, like we've seen it so many times in our almost 6 years with the Academy, where people come in and they're in year 2, 3, they're not making any money. They're like, do I need to close up shop? Nothing seems to be working. Let's do the math on this. Wow, you're paying to be at these events. And we tell them, like, price doesn't matter, just double your prices. Cool. And you can. However, premium buyers don't just purchase things because they're more expensive. And that's really what we talk about in the book. And we're lining out, like, what does it mean to be a premium business or to support a premium buyer? What do they want? What are they looking for? What do you have to do in order to attract them? And so chapter by chapter, we kind of walk it through. Actually, the book as it stands currently, and it may change because it's with the editor, it has 3 parts. And the second part is all about figuring out who you are. And you've heard it before, who you are, what you do, who you serve. Part 2 is really asking you to get intimate as to who you are, what you do, not only like this, whether you're selling a product or you have a service, yes, but also what about you doing that thing is different than the way that everybody else does that thing. Like, what are you bringing to the table? What spin is uniquely yours? So premium buyers like problems being solved in a premium way. And one of the examples I give in the book is this car dealership in Philadelphia. It's a Ford dealership. So it's a very mid-market retail experience, but they have a premium offer. And that premium offer is that because they're really close to the Philadelphia airport, if you buy your car from them, and there might be additional stipulations, I don't know, but you can deliver your car there instead of paying for parking or putting it in long-term, like whatever. They will then drive you to the airport. And while they have your car, they'll do the things. They'll like vacuum it, give it a nice car wash. If it needs an oil change, they'll do that. And then they'll come like arrange for your pickup so that when you get back in your car, it's shiny, it smells good, it's got its oil change. And like Ford's not very expensive. The experience, premium experience, right? And so premium buyers are either looking to associate themselves with premium brands or to invest in things that are solving their problems in a premium way. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? How does that feel? And that's where we kind of get into all of the different tangible aspects that you and I are really good at identifying through our work with the unconscious and the subconscious and psychology and the neuroscience, the buyer psychology of all of these things, right? And so language is really important. I talk about in the book about words of power. We did a website review with one of our one-on-one clients yesterday about a website that she loved. And we kind of pointed out, like, this is why you love it. It uses a lot of alliteration. It uses rhyme. It uses words of power. It uses imagery consistently and aspirationally. These are all things that, like, we have words to put to that a lot of times people will just look at something and be like, I like this. Why do I like this? Do this because I like this. And there's actual things behind why you like that and why it feels premium and why it feels like an elevated option that we just have over time become really good at identifying. And so, our goal here is to kind of make that more democratized and give people better access to the psychology as well as the framework of what constitutes premium business with the ability to support premium buyers.
We agreed to a flow state podcast on this one, so I'm just going to chuck these in here the way that I do. There were two things on that website, and like two things that we're always looking for, just so you guys have something tangible to walk away with here. First of all, I'll say people subconsciously, which is what you're selling to. By the way, you're never selling to the logical mind because the logical mind doesn't make purchases ever. The emotional mind, the physical mind, the subconscious is what makes purchases. At that level, you need some understanding, whether you call it neuroscience or magic, you need some understanding of how that process works for people. Subconscious loves alliteration. Subconscious loves rhyme. Those are the two things that you mentioned. Subconscious also only speaks in imagery or what you're calling words of power here, which are just like power statements. So when I say radiance, so many things, maybe you pictured the sun, maybe you pictured glowing skin, like maybe you pictured the reflection of the sun on the water. All I said was radiance. Right? Those are words of power that, when strategically placed, call on these archetypal figures within the subconscious. There are two magics that you can implement for premium magic. I'm sorry, for premium marketing, little sick Freudian slip there, that can help you elevate your brand immediately. One is glamour magic, and the other one is threshold magic. These are two of my favorite magic systems. Glamour magic is, how do people perceive you? Now, you can't control that entirely, but you can control it to some degree. This is what PR specialists are really adept in. It's also what fashion designers are really adept in. I'm watching Next in Fashion with Tan France right now. 10 out of 10 recommend. It's so good. And this season has Gigi Hadid. And one of the things that they keep bringing up, all the people who are designing, as well as all the well-named designer, like they had Versace on the other day, they keep bringing up is that what you wear is a suit of armor. Right. And so when someone is dressing Rihanna for the red carpet or Lady Gaga for the Met Gala, they are putting them in garments that imbue them with a certain power, a certain presence, a certain life force. And so it's like on Halloween when we all get dressed up and you dress up as something spicy and you feel sexier than you do every other day. Right. Or you dress up as something like backwoods redneck and you're like, this is fun. You know what I mean? Like you assume the character. A good book for this is Alter Ego. I can't see the author's name from here. Alter Ego. And this essentially is just like how it's controlling perception to some degree, how people are perceiving you. But that also imbues the wearer with a level of power and presence that they wouldn't have otherwise had. You can do the same thing with your bar setup, with your photography, with your aesthetic and how you present weddings. You're not creating the same copy paste wedding planning experience as everybody else, right? Like you have a signature that then you co-create with your bride or groom or whatever. And so like glamour magic is essential. You can also do this on your website and in all of your marketing materials, right? The second one is threshold magic. It's the liminal space. It's crossing the threshold between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. When a client lands on your website, you need to be able to bypass the logical mind almost immediately. Every second counts. If you can't get to their inner dreamer, you've pretty much lost them. Even if they scroll on, you've pretty much lost them. You need to take them into another realm, and you have to have their agreements for them to enter that realm. We see this in movies where Alice lives in this really mundane world, but then she falls down the rabbit hole. That's threshold magic because we have agreed as the viewers that we are going with her. When Dorothy lives in Kansas, everything's black and white, and then she bumps her head and wakes up in this magical place. We agree. Subconsciously, we're like, yes, we're in a new realm where the laws of physics or the laws of reality no longer apply. You can use that in every facet of your marketing to get people to agree to this new realm that they very much want to be a part of. So when you go to like a vacation site and you use this, I'm already on the beach. Now I feel like when I leave your site that you're taking something away from me. And I don't like that. I want a beach. And so that's a little threshold magic. So glamour magic, threshold magic will make your marketing sparkle.
I do talk about threshold magic in the book. I'm trying to remember if I talk about glamour magic. If not, it's not too late. I can go back and I can put that in there. Threshold magic, I think I talk about in the book, even on a retail setting, or if you have a physical space, there's so much more that you can do because threshold magic utilizes the senses. One of my favorite is sound. When I envision my future indie bookstore, when you walk in, like you walk through like a curtain of like these little tinking bells because sound creates threshold, right? There's before the tinkle of the bells and after the tinkle of the bells. Smell also can threshold magic. If you ever walked into a nice hotel or a high-end boutique and like the smell is very intentional, it's not like overpowering. To a certain extent, retail places like Annie Ann's and like the Cinnabon, like they use that, they pump out their, the scent and they make people hungry, right? And like, yes, that's also a good example of that. Signature scents, like Abercrombie, or was it Hollister? I can't remember, back in the day where you'd walk by it in the mall and you're like, I know what that is because they had a signature scent, right? Threshold magic utilizes sensory experiences to say, this was you before, this is you now. And one of the things that I mentioned in the book is that can be as simple as like a catchphrase that you have. Like it is how everyone is greeted when they walk in the door, or it is a term that you have for your people. You have a community of people. And like what came to mind there is how the attendees of Brew called themselves the Brew Crew. Like we didn't even know, we didn't make that up. But like to address someone as a brew crewer, they're going to feel like they're on the inside. They were on the outside. Now they're on the inside, right? There's a shift that happens when you create either language or some other sensory experience around what you do. And it's harder for virtual businesses. It's harder for businesses that may not actually physically meet somebody until the day of, like mobile bars. But if you have a retail location, if you are in person, you mentioned photographers, there are just so many ways because they have that additional art, that additional craft of imagery. Like you have a style, right? And so like that style should be, and I've been to a lot of photography websites, and like sometimes there's no consistency on a website as to like, what is the style? This one's really dark, this one's really bright. And like, I get it. Like maybe the client wanted that experience, but like, I love a good photography website when it's like very clear what, like I'm bright and airy, but that's all I do. Or I'm dark and moody, but that's all I do. Or I'm editorial and that's all I do. Like I love that, creates such strong threshold magic that like, okay, I know where I am and what to expect here. I do talk about threshold magic in the book. And these are the languages that we're trying to teach people, right? Glamour magic is a great example in that, it's the attempt to control perception. It taps into archetypes. So like when I put on a red lip, a high heel, and a push-up bra, I like that archetype is very clear to people who are perceiving me as to what I'm going for there, and like sometimes people don't use this type of framework consciously. And so we've gotten this, I think, well, don't make any assumptions type thing, but it doesn't keep that from still being true. If you're using it intentionally, It is a very powerful technique and tactic.
You had a podcast with Corbin once, and I think like he said that he doesn't really practice this thing that you were talking about. And you were like, but Corbin, you do. You do. Let me give you some examples, right? And you broke it down for him, and he was like, you just kind of changed my brain chemistry here. And so, like, even unconsciously, if you're being true to yourself, you are imbuing your essence into everything around you. And so, like, if you are a skater punk, you're likely not regularly buying preppy clothes. Was that a conscious decision? Probably not, right? Now you can consciously alter your appearance. I used to do this with corporate America, right? Where like anybody who knows me knows I live in my husband's baggy shorts. I'm a homebody. That's what I love. I love to be comfortable in like nice cottons or linens, loose fitting clothing. But when I go into a corporate setting, part of my powerhouse was that I would put on a pencil skirt and I wore it very nice. You know what I mean? Like I can embody that. That's the other thing is that it's not foreign to me, right? You don't want to change your archetype consciously to a place that you're not at home anymore. I can very much wear the corporate aesthetic and I can fucking rock it. But if you were to ask me to embody if you were going to ask me to embody
Lacrosse.
a lacrosse player. I don't even know what fucking lacrosse, what is that even? You know what I mean? And so like I would fail miserably at that. But you are multifaceted. You just want to hone in on a few of them. You can mesh archetypes. So like we love a good jester paired with a lover when it comes to fun brands that are going to do like weddings and things, right? We love a good ruler with the lover when it comes to brands that are aiming for that luxury space. Actually, most luxury brands embody the ruler or the lover. You want to like consciously tap into your unconscious and say, who am I? And then to your point, what do I do? What do I do is also an extension of who am I? Because again, you can go to Dollar General and get hot dog buns. I like to go to Food Matters where the hot dog buns are outrageously priced. You know what I mean? And so, like, it depends on, they're still just hot dog buns. How do you do what you do? That's what makes all the difference. Anyways, guys, so this is the pivot. This is where we are going. I'm so excited to dive into creating the new, it won't be called the Academy, but that's what I'm calling it for shorthand today in Crowns and Chaos, and to get this off the ground. This has been a long time coming. For those of you who have been with us, been walking with us for a hot minute, you've probably foreseen it to some degree. And now it's here, now it's happening. And so we're super stoked about it.
Yeah, we really are. The call to action here is that if you are a part of the Mobile Bev Pros community and you've been supporting the Mobile Bev Pros podcast, if you haven't already, come follow us over on Substack, because a lot of this premium goody stuff is going to live over there. And I also want to mention just one thing. It's not like we haven't tried to do the premium stuff over with MVP. I think over the past 18 months, what we have found is that Mobile Bev Pros as an entity, and I talk about this in the book, where when you create a brand, you have two options. You can either create a familiar almost, where it's like it's you cast outside of yourself. And so when I created Mobile Bev Pros, it was this version of me at that time that I cast outside of myself and created to do its thing. Then there's a construct, and a construct is not you. It is a piece of you. It's like a fractal of you. It's this sense of, I am this way some of the times, and I think that this version of me would do a really good job at tackling this particular product or service delivery. And so I'm going to create a company or an entity that does that with this version of me. And it will always be kind of this version. So an example of this would be, if I'm going to, for me, for example, for the most part, I utilize the sage archetype. And I also love a good joker, like a joking sage. It's kind of what I like. But what we found is that within MVP, the sage rules. People resonate way better with the sage than the jester when it comes to color palettes and like that sort of thing. And so had I had better, clearer awareness when I created Mobile Bev Pros, I probably could have created with the intention of that, like it has a very formal academic vibe, but also like here's some fun. And I just didn't, right? I created it from the professionalism, very, formal, very academic standpoint. And so any efforts that we've had to kind of veer away from that, we've not seen the same momentum. And that's okay. It just means that like Mobile Bev Pros is an established construct, and that my personal brand can be more dynamic. My personal brand of Sarah is more dynamic because I am multidimensional. A person can be and is multidimensional. And so a brand that is a personal brand is given a lot more slack and leeway to be multidimensional. A brand that is a construct, an example of this is let's say Volvo, the car brand, it's like very safe. It's like, that's the thing. Like you looking for a safe car, Volvo's top of the list. It's, very rates highly for crashes and like does very well. They're very kind of like a serious type brand. And if they hired a new marketing intern that decided it wanted to like embody the rebel archetype and like, start being super like sassy in the comment, like that would be like cognitive dissonance at that point. People would be like, what is going on with Volvo? Like that is not the Volvo we know and love. And consistency is really important when you're building trust with the client base, right? And so one of the decisions that needs to be made straight out the gate is, are you going to be creating a personal brand, familiar type brand, or are you going to be creating a construct? And with MVP, a lot of the efforts that we've made over the past 18 months to rein in people into this premium ecosystem have not really gained as much traction as we thought it would. And that might just be because the people that are attracted to Mobile Bev Pros are looking for more of the professional versus the premium space. They're looking to like do things legally and correctly and profitably, but they're not necessarily looking to tackle that premium space where we're talking now archetypes and premium language, and you're spending more money on web development and like all of those things, which is totally fine because we are capable of and have another outlet to be doing this great work in the world so that we can continue to build upon the platform that lights us up the most, which is helping people in this space, utilizing psychology, utilizing all of the tools that we have to attract the premium buyer and to create premium brands. And so that's the origin story of why a lot of this work going forward is going to be targeted at Crowns and Chaos versus Mobile Bev Pros.
I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that like when you're first starting in the mobile bar industry, it's very legal. It's very legal. Like I need a sage. I need you to tell me what to do, how to do it, when to do it, because I am not trying to get shut down, sued, or otherwise, right? And so like that tracks. And then like when you elevate to the premium space, and not to, because here's the thing, people that get into the mobile bar space are creatives. Like we get so many people who are like, I struggle with taxes because I'm a visionary, right? Like we get it. The premium space though, where we're moving to with Crowns and Chaos, puts creativity and genius above this like legal, and not that we don't want you legal, because we do, but it puts it like if you're in a different realm now. Like now the creativity is what gets to blossom and flourish, which you can do in later years of your mobile bar, or if you have the right guides, you can do that early on in your mobile bar. To your point, so you're not pigeonholed into some version of you that you didn't actually resonate with. And so like I can see why at Mobile Bev Pros, they're more like, how do I do this legally and professionally? Then over on Crowns and Chaos, we get the creative expression, the people who are like, I'm a photographer, I'm a PR agent, and like I want to be self-expressed, I want to be fulfilled, I want to have freedom, and I want to make bank, but I want to love what I'm doing every day, and I want to feel seen and loved and expressed, right? So that's where all that's going to live. Anyway, guys, if you are listening on MVP and you love this, go follow us on Crowns and Chaos so you get all of the yummy, juicy, delicious details as they drop over there. If you're listening to this in Crowns and Chaos, welcome home. We love you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will talk to you all on the next one.
And that wraps up today's episode. I hope it was valuable. I would love to hear from you what you thought. You can drop me a line at hello@mobilebevpros.com or find me on Instagram at mobilebevpros. If you're looking for more valuable mobile bar related content, we have a website full of it. You can find us at www.mobilebevpros.com. And I'd love to see you in our Facebook community, also by the name of, you guessed it, Mobile Bev Pros. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, cheers.